The insurance industry kept telling me the same thing. You just need leads. And at some point, I got the question every marketing guy gets. If you're so good at this, why don't you just do it yourself? Fair question. So I got my insurance license, got in the trenches with our own leads, and wrote millions of dollars in annuity premiums, and turns out it works. But here's what I couldn't explain. Other agents were using the exact same leads and failing. So I studied them, and what I discovered changed everything I believed about this business. Now, before I tell you what I found, let me explain why I even got licensed in the first place. For years, I've been hearing the same refrain from every corner of this industry. IMOs say, you just need leads. FMOs say, you need our leads. Agencies say, you need better leads. And lead vendors, well, they say our leads are so good, you can just show up and close. And the subtext is, these are the unicorn leads that practically close themselves. And everyone has the same answer. And I believed it too, but something didn't add up. I was watching agents use the same leads, the same tools, the same scripts, and completely different results were created. So I decided to stop theorizing and start testing. I got licensed, I got in the trenches, and I set out to discover what actually separates success from failure in this insurance business. And let me tell you what most lead vendors actually do. Their business model is simple. Sell you a name, an email, and a phone number for a profit, which means they're incentivized for one thing, and that's volume. Get as many contact records as possible, as cheaply as possible. So what do? Well, I call it rabbit hole advertising. They run ads with just enough intrigue to get someone to fall down the rabbit hole and give up their information. Minimal education, minimal qualification, just enough to capture the lead. And then you call that person and they say, wait, why are we talking? They didn't even know they became your lead. They clicked on something, filled out a form, and now you're calling them about retirement planning, and they have no idea why. Sound familiar? Here's the problem. When you get one of these leads, you're making a fatal assumption. You're assuming that because they opted in online, they're what I call problem solution and product aware. You assume they know they have a problem. You assume they're looking for a solution. You assume they understand what your product is and why it matters. But they don't. They're in a deficit of relevant information. They have no idea what any of this means for them. Their problems are not top of mind, and they have no clear desire for a solution. And they have zero context for why your product would even matter in their life. So when you show up and start talking about products, well, hold on a second. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me actually tell you what happened when I got in the trenches to test this myself. Like I said, I got my insurance license for one reason, to overcome the lies and discover the truth. And if everyone in this industry says you just need leads, I wanted to prove it or disprove it. So I started working our own leads, the same leads we were generating for agents. I wanted to see firsthand what happened when you actually worked them. And here's what happened. I actually wrote millions of dollars in annuity premium. It worked. The leads worked. I was closing business, helping people, building relationships. So when agents started calling me and saying, these leads suck, or this doesn't work, I was a bit confused because I was using the exact same marketing campaign and strategy, generating the exact same leads, using the exact same tools. It was the exact same everything. Same leads, completely different results. That's when I realized I had to study the failures, not just celebrate my wins, but understand why other people were losing with the same inputs. What was the difference? It wasn't the leads. We've proven that. It wasn't the tools, same tools. It wasn't the scripts, same scripts. The only variable left was the agent. And here's something I want you to think about. You should really question working with any marketing partner who isn't practicing what they preach. If they don't use what they sell you, their incentives are opposed to yours. Think about it. When you work with someone who's running the same campaigns, strategies, every single day, they're incentivized to make sure the marketing and sales process does one thing: help you produce more, because their production depends on the same system that yours does. But when you work with someone who just sells you leads and doesn't use them, their incentive is different, right? How profitable can I make this while keeping you around? That's why I got licensed, not just to prove that I could do it, but to make sure that every campaign, every strategy, every process we offer is something we're using ourselves every day. So with that context, let me tell you what I discovered when I started studying why agents were failing. Here's what I realized studying agent after agent. Who you are being is why you are failing. Let me say that again. Who you are being is why you are failing. It's not what you are doing. It's not what you have. It's who you're being when you show up to work these leads. And I found that there are two identities that agents show up as. Identity number one, the insurance agent. I also call this the product peddler. When you're just an insurance agent, you push products to people. That's what you do. You have a product, you find people, you push the product. And because you're a product peddler, you make the cardinal sin of selling virtually to paid leads. You assume that just because someone opted in online, they're ready to hear about your product. So you talk product right off the bat. Let me tell you about this indexed annuity. Have you considered an annuity for your retirement? I can show you a product that guarantees what happens. You put them in what I call the buyer's frame. They get defensive. They didn't ask for this. They don't understand why they need it. And now you're selling at them. So you get a lot of, I'm not interested, or can you send me some more information? Or maybe I need to think about it. And then you, the advisor, says, these leads suck. This doesn't work. But it's not the leads. Now let's talk about identity number two, the virtual retirement professional. Now let's look at the other identity, the one that actually works. A virtual retirement professional doesn't push products. They uncover problems. They know that the person on the other end of the call is in a deficit of relevant information. They don't know what they don't know. They're not problem aware. They're not solution aware, and they're definitely not product aware. So the virtual retirement professional's job is not to present product, it's to uncover problems that they can solve. And here's the rule. You do not give yourself permission to discuss or present any product until you have clearly defined problems that can be solved by you and your products or your asset management. One that's been articulated out loud by your client. That's the shift. Stop being a product peddler. Start uncovering problems first. Now, let me show you how to make this shift in practice. There's a framework from Franklin Covey, and it's called Be, Do, Have. Most agents think backwards. They think, if I have better leads, I'll do more presentations and I'll be successful. But that's backwards. It starts with be. Be a virtual retirement professional. That's the identity shift. Do a problem-first sales process. Uncover before you present. And have clients who urgently want the solution, which means more closes, more income, more impact for you. We actually wrote this down. We call it the Retirement Professional's Creed. And here's what it says. It says, I take responsibility for uncovering fundamental retirement problems that I can solve. Then I develop a mutual awareness of the problem so that my client desire their annuity solution and urgently move towards it like the perfect puzzle piece they need to secure the best retirement possible. Read that again. This isn't about pushing products. It's about uncovering problems and developing a mutual awareness to those problems. When you do that, the clients don't say, I need to think about it. They say, can you help me do this? When you make this shift, when you stop being a product peddler and start being a virtual retirement professional, everything changes. It's the same leads, the same tools, but you get completely different results. The leads don't change. You change. You stop hearing, I'm not interested, and start hearing, tell me more. You stop chasing people and start having people chase the solution. You stop blaming the leads and start owning the process. That's what I discovered when I got licensed and got in the trenches. That's what I learned from studying failures. The difference between success and failure in this business isn't the leads. It's the identity you bring to those leads. Now, the identity is where it starts, but there's a whole set of tools that virtual retirement professionals use, a whole process, a whole system, and you might be wondering if this works so well, why share it? Why not just keep it all to yourselves, Jim? Well, it's kind of like asking why Apple lets other retailers sell the iPhone when they clearly make more margin doing it themselves. The answer is simple. We can't reach everyone on our own. That's why Juicebox exists, and ultimately why we started an IMO, to offer end-to-end integration from cold lead to closed clients to issue paid, solving for everything necessary for advisors to scale completely virtual. So in the next video, I'm going to tell you why we built it, what was broken about the traditional IMO model, and what we do differently. I'll see you there.